Do you have trouble setting up boundaries with your narcissist? You see, when I'm talking with people on one-on-ones, what I notice over a period of time is they'll talk about boundaries. They'll talk about things that they try to set in place to be able to protect themselves. They'll talk about different things that they try to stand up and advocate for themselves in different aspects of like, hey, like I tried to say no in this area and my narcissist didn't care. Like I tried to say no in how she was screaming at me and she wouldn't stop. Like I tried to say no with him going out and cheating more, but it never affected anything. And there's a lot of people that put boundaries in place that over a period of time they give up and they stop trying to put boundaries in place because like what's the point? Like my boundary does nothing. Like no matter what I do, he still comes back and abuses me. No matter what I do, she still comes back and accuses me. Like no matter what happens, these boundaries things, like they don't work. There's a lot of times that people come to me and talk on one-on-ones or in interactions, even on live events, different things like that, where they're confused about boundaries. So what I want to be able to tell you real quick is about boundaries, really quick from the narcissist perspective, and then really quick how you can implement good, solid boundaries. Okay? From the narcissist perspective, here's how it is. Narcissists view boundaries as a prison. Narcissists view boundaries as something that is there to encage them, to close them in, to limit them. It's limiting their ego, their entitlement, their sense of superiority. It's limiting their actions, what they want to do, what they want to say. And ultimately, they think it's limiting their image. Because they're not going to be the person that they want to be if they can't go out and cheat. They're not going to be the person that they want to be if they can't go out and lie. They're not going to be the person that they want to be if they can't go do, etc. Or if they can't be, etc. Narcissists view boundaries as a prison. The difference and the flip side is a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship views boundaries as protection. Narcissist views boundaries as a prison. Healthy relationships view boundaries as protection. You see, in a healthy relationship, there's boundaries there and they exist for the purpose of protecting either that other person or protecting the relationship. For the narcissist, they view those boundaries as a prison because they're not interested in the relationship. They're not bought in to that relationship. They're not in love with that person to the point that they are actually going to change, develop, be honest, be vulnerable, and continue that growth on a day-to-day basis. So with narcissistic relationships, they view boundaries as a prison. It's something that is limiting their ego, their image, and their control of a situation. For healthy relationships, boundaries are protection. Either protection for the other person or protection for that couple to continue to grow and bond and develop in a healthy way. That's why narcissists view boundaries in such a negative light, because they're not a good thing. A lot of times when I'm talking about boundaries, people get confused and they start thinking that a boundary is for the narcissist. They start to think that the boundary is there to, put up a wall to be able to cage them in or to be able to stop their habits or to limit their habits or to limit their control or like whatever it might be. A lot of people view boundaries as being for the narcissist. I want to tell you this right now. Boundary is not for the narcissist. It's not. Okay? Because a boundary for the narcissist, if that's how you view it, all you're trying to do is you're trying to do either punishment or conformity. You're trying to set up a wall and say, hey, this is how you will act. Sometimes a narcissist will take that and they will act that way until you get comfortable and then they'll come back and abuse you. But it's not going to change anything and it's not going to change the person. So you have to take out of your mind that a boundary is for the narcissist. A boundary is for you. Okay? The boundary is for you, and what the boundary is in your aspect is an aspect of protection for you. But a boundary is a level. It's a line. It's a line in the sand, and it says, this is as far as I will go. This is how much abuse I will take. This is how much yelling and screaming you can do at me until I say enough. A boundary is for you to the level of this is how much shit I'll put up with. That's what a boundary is for. Sometimes people get that confused. And I want to bring that up to remind you, a boundary is for you and is for your protection. This is why boundaries are super effective and super possible and super needed in narcissistic relationships, and boundaries are also needed in healthy relationships. Boundaries are not this bad thing. Boundaries are not this limiting thing. Boundaries are a thing that says, hey, for myself, this is a boundary I'm placing in my life and on my relationships that is going to keep me in a certain level, in a certain place that keeps me focused on my goals, my dreams, my vision, and my purpose in life. All right, so boundaries. That's how a narcissist views them. That's talk about on unhealthy relationships, healthy relationships. So boundary setting. What does that actually look like? Okay, a lot of people tell me like, hey, like I set a boundary and they just blow right through it. Like they don't seem to care. If you've heard me on lives, if you've heard me on one-on-one, one of the things I love to say, and I think it's a really good quote, one, because I came up with it. No, I'm just kidding. One, because I came up with it, but here's the thing. Boundaries without consequences are a speed bump for a narcissist. See, a boundary that doesn't have anything backing it up doesn't really matter to the narcissist. If you say, don't do that, and there's no repercussion, there's no discipline in that area, there's no, hey, if you do this, then this will happen, they're going to do it. Why? Because they love pushing boundaries. A narcissist, when they view a boundary, they'll do a couple different things. They'll either blow right through it right away. 1, to be able to see what's going on. 2, because they don't care. 3, to see what happens after they blow right through it. Because how you react after they blow through a boundary is going to set the tone for how many more times they're going to keep blowing through that boundary. Narcissists will blow right through a boundary. Another thing they'll do is they'll come right up to it and they'll step right on the line. They won't go over. I didn't physically cheat. I emotionally cheated. I didn't actually go out with this person. I just called them. I didn't go to the bar. Like I just drove by. Like you'll find all these little like loopholes in like every single thing because the narcissist will come right up to that boundary and wants to see your reaction. At that point, it's not so much about the letter of the law as it is the spirit of it. Like, hey, like you're not even like coming close to respecting what I'm doing. Like, yes, you didn't officially break this boundary, but you also didn't care to even try to avoid it. Okay? So a narcissist will blow right through your boundary. A narcissist will come right up and they'll step on that line. Okay? Then the narcissist will also come up and they won't step on the line, but they'll kind of like, almost kind of like a little wave. They'll kind of like tweak over and back a little bit. Because they want to see what's going to happen when I push it a little bit, then I like step back. I'm going to push that boundary. I feel like this person is starting to realize I'm pushing that boundary, then I'm going to step back. Add a little love bombing, add a little bit of future faking, let it die off for a day or so. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to push it a little bit more, then I'll come back. Some of them that are really covert, that are really manipulative, you'll see this pattern if you start identifying. You'll actually see this. Check out like the idea of a narcissist like wanting threesomes. You'll see that. You'll see that boundary pushing all the time. Okay? The other thing, so like the fourth thing with narcissists and breaking boundaries is they'll try to get you to a place where you are the one that breaks your own boundary. Maybe you say, hey, I only want to go this far in the relationship. And they'll get to a place where they'll try to manipulate, guilt trip, and use your empathy so that you're the one that goes past that line in the sand. If they can do that, then they know they can manipulate you on a consistent basis. All right, so I said about setting boundaries. A boundary has to have clear consequences. A boundary has to have something that is measurable. A boundary has to have, in one sense, almost like SMART goals. Okay? So a boundary has to say, hey, if you do this, then this is going to happen. How I'm going to evaluate the first thing is yes or no answers or time sensitive. If you, let's use something silly. Like if you take out the trash, okay? Yes or no. That's an easy one, okay? You either took it out or you didn't take it out, okay? That's a boundary. I'm using this as a facetious example. That's a boundary, okay? If you didn't take out the trash, then, let's use it for a kid's example. Then no more games for the night, okay? Like stuff like this. Like, but you have to tone it down to this type of level with a narcissist because that is the emotional and the mental capacity that a lot of times you're dealing with. So using this as like a small example to try to help you understand this is what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis with a narcissist. You have to have a clear boundary and it has to be followed with clear consequences. When you're setting up boundaries with a narcissist, one of the things I counsel people and tell them in coaching, one-on-one sessions, all this type of stuff, is when you have boundaries that you want to set with a narcissist, come up with 6 boundaries. Okay, think through 6 boundaries that you can implement. These boundaries have to be time sensitive and they have to be quantifiable. Yes or no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, has to be 2 weeks, 6 months, a year, whatever it has to be. It has to be quantifiable, it has to be numbers driven. Okay, you come up with 6 of these goals, 6 of these goals / boundaries. You communicate to the narcissist 2, and that's it. Literally, you will go to your deathbed, you will go to the grave with 4 of those boundaries and goals that you will never communicate to them ever. But they're your fail-safe from you manipulating yourself to stay with a person who's going to abuse you over and over and over again. A narcissist, if you give them a list, a narcissist will typically go through and they'll check all the boxes. So be careful when you're setting boundaries, when you're giving goals, not to give them the whole playbook, because they will go through, they will check off all the boxes, and then they'll go right back to abusing you. And because they checked off all the boxes, it creates this dissonance in your mind of like, wait a second, they actually tried, they actually cared, they did everything I asked them to do, then why am I still getting abused? Be careful not to give them all the answers. Set boundaries, set goals, but they have to have clear consequences that you're going to follow through. If you don't follow through with the consequences, don't even worry about setting boundaries, because they don't matter. They don't matter to the narcissist, and they won't care to blow through those boundaries if there's no consequence and there's no follow through. So set boundaries, set clear consequences, follow through. If you want to talk more about this, go to my website, rawmotivations.com. Would love to talk to you on a one-on-one basis and try to be able to help you navigate the murky and the muddy waters of dealing with narcissistic fog, dealing with trauma bonds, dealing with everything going on with that, so that you can be free and you can be confident in who you are and be able to set clear boundaries, clear consequences, and have follow through.